Whoa!
Hey,
That suddenly all went wrong.
what a good start.
That was great. Hello. Nice to have you with us once more. It's Monday. It's 2 p.m. UK time. It is This Week in WordPress. I don't know if you just caught a glimpse, but there was just very briefly, there was Michelle Frechette. And I'm really hoping that, oh no, she's wishing to come back. Look, there's Michelle. Oh, come on, Michelle. I hope it works. But she's trying to join us today, but she has a very poor internet connection. I'm not entirely sure what's gone wrong, but hopefully she'll be joining us. But she has said it may come and go. At the moment, it's here. So I'd like to introduce you to Michelle Frechette. How are you doing, Michelle? You all right? And I think she's frozen. Oh, dear.
She's doing a Madonna.
Yeah, she's able to drink coffee. I can see that much. But I'll tell you what I'll do is I will hand over to Paul to do the introduction of Remkus, and then I'll do the introduction of Michelle properly in the vain hope that she'll be back by then. So I'll hand over to Paul to do Remkus.
All right, yeah, let's try that. Well, Remkus, nice to meet you after a long time. I've followed you online for a long time. And so to introduce you to the guest today, probably everybody knows who you are, but you're a WordPress veteran and a performance aficionado, a WordCamp organizer, in fact, the original co-founder of WordCamp EU, in fact, an aspiring strongman, which I've checked out your Facebook videos, which are very interesting. And Nathan told me that he reckons he will beat you in an arm wrestle if you ever meet sometime. So be careful. That's what he's told me.
It's a different discipline. Could very well be.
Well, it's all in the technique, maybe. But you're also head of partners and custom relationship at Serverbolt, which you should tell us about that in a minute. And you can find out more about Remkus at remkusdevries.fri. So that's REMKUS.DEVRIES.FRI. Or L. FRL, that's an L, isn't it?
There's a much easier way. I am the only one in the world with this name, so you just Google Remkus and you cannot miss me.
There you go.
Literally Remkus.
It's used as a surname in the UK. In the United States. So you will see other occurrences, but Remkus de Vries, there's only one with that name in the entire world.
I thought you meant just Remkus. I was thinking, whoa, that's awesome. You're the only person with this name. No, okay.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is as well, when I was researching more information about your bio, Remkus, it turns out that Remkus isn't your first name. That's just the easier one for people to say. A bit like Vito Peleg, actually. He has another name that isn't Vito Peleg.
Yeah, my name is Jukka Remkus de Vries. And if I introduce myself in that fashion, I go like, "What? Can you say, wait? What?"
Yeah.
So that quickly became okay. What is recognizable? Turns out Remkus is doable. Starts with a hard R. And right now, I think only the Spanish people find my name difficult because they don't have the M following the K following the M.
Right.
So they'll make Remkus.
Okay.
Which is interesting, but it's pronounceable and recognizable. So I'll work with that.
Yeah, thank you for joining us today, Michelle. I'm gonna try to introduce you properly. It says here on the thing that I'm reading out, it says we know Michelle. Michelle's been on dozens of times, but I'm going to do her justice. Just quick caveat: if Michelle drops in and out, we're just going to cope with it. And even if she drops out mid-sentence, one of us is going to have to leap in and finish off what she was absolutely guaranteed to say. So it says, in addition to her work at GiveWP, Michelle is the podcast barista at WPCoffeetalk.com. I would urge you to go and check that out. It's fantastic. Co-founder of Underrepresented in Tech, creator of WPCareerPages.com, a volunteer for BigOrangeHeart.org, author, business coach, and frequent speaker at WordPress events. You can find out more at her website, worksbymichelle.com. That is a laundry list, Michelle. Honestly, you put us all to shame.
I like to be busy.
Yeah, so it would seem. Yeah, so it would seem. Is there anything you wanted to add at the top before we crack on, Michelle?
I'm actually now a board member at Big Orange Heart.
Oh, so, when did that happen?
Recently, when we're in the process of moving things over. We're a U.S. charity now, and so we have a U.S. board.
Oh, Well, thank you. She's exactly at that moment her screen went away. We'll cope. We'll cope with whatever Michelle's internet throws at us today. As it says in the little comment thing at the bottom, if you are watching this in the Facebook group, you'll need to offer StreamYard opt some permissions. You can do that by going to the comment thread at the top and clicking the little streamyard.com/Facebook link. Otherwise, you can go over to wpbuilds.com/live, and if you're logged into Google, you'll be able to make a comment over there because it's YouTube. And got a few comments that have come in. Oh, look. Whoa, he is strong. Check out his IG. Oh, okay.
It's true.
I guess IG stands for Instagram, right? Is that I'm just not cool?
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yes, Dad. It does.
It's Paul this week. He made a comment in, I don't know where. He said that he'd been looking at your Instagram channel. So I actually clicked on the link and looked at your Instagram channel. Yeah. And you lift like absurdly heavy things and walk with them. It's just like, whoa.
All I can say is I didn't start with the heavy ones. It just gradually happens if you continuously go for more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess it's something that is it almost, how to describe this? I don't want to use the wrong words, but is this something that's just like soul food to you? You just really enjoy that stuff.
Like many other people in this line of work, I sit on my butt all day. Before I did this, I used to exercise different types of things. I played football, tennis, windsurfing. Just always active. A lot of biking because we are in the Netherlands. And once work starts, you become more just sitting. And the more I'm in my head, the more I need to, what's the word? Decharge?
Kind of recharge, yeah.
So I've always been doing some sort of lifting of weights because I enjoy it. Just, it's a very physical thing to do. I enjoy it. And then about 2 years ago, a buddy of mine who lives like, 10 kilometers away. That's 6.5 miles for you metrically challenged people. And he said, I'm starting to do strongman stuff, and I've seen you post some stuff on Instagram. Feel free to drop by any Saturday. We'll be working out all Saturday afternoon, so feel free to drop by. I was like, I don't think that's me, but we'll see. I haven't spoken to him in years, so I dropped in, and there's not been a Saturday I haven't went back. So
I gotta say, I was watching it and I was just absolutely shattered just watching the videos, like completely in the knowledge that literally everything which you were lifting up.
Yeah, so
I wouldn't even get it this far off the ground.
So the one you saw. So if you scroll back a whole 2 years, you'll find me do more moderate stuff, but. One of the last lifts I did I was very proud of because, when you're working towards a certain weight, I lifted we call it the frame, and you're supposed to walk with it for 15 meters.
I saw that.
I saw this one too.
Yeah, and the frame weighed 300 kilos or 662 pounds. And I never thought I was going to do that. I just literally thought I was never going to do that. So when I did, I was like, how did I do that? It's just wrapping your head around, because lifting it up is one thing, but walking with it is just. But yeah, I enjoy doing it. It's a great way to be in my body and work on my health. And although I get a lot of comments like, "Is this still healthy?" And it is, but not if you start at that weight. And
there's only damage.
You just work yourself up there. Like anything else, it's a skill, and it requires training, and it requires research and thinking and learning. And I have I'm training with. There's 3 people there who literally have been the strongest man of the Netherlands. Wow. So any question I have, I can ask them, and they'll help me. So
yeah,
it's fun. It's great fun.
I was really surprised by that this had been an ambition for a really long time. I was really, really surprised by like how cool you were after you did it. It's like you did this thing, put it down, and we're like, yeah, nice.
Yeah.
None of this.
Yeah,
I don't think he could lift his arms up after
that's it.
It was like I could see your hands were hurting, so it's kind of like I don't know if you're allowed to wear special gloves to help the padding or anything, or if there's rules on that.
No, a large portion, all of this is you do it as raw as possible.
Yeah.
We have an acronym for this show. It's TWIW, and I can feel it's going to become This Week in Weightlifting next week. Remkus on each week to discuss what he's done during the week.
Sometimes it's about animals, chickens. This week it's about strong lift.
It is, yeah. Cool. We've got some nice comments coming in. Michelle has been thawed, it says. I guess Cameron knows something, maybe.
Fries, yeah.
Okay, and thank you, Cameron, for joining us as always. He's late night. He's on the east coast of Australia, so it must be jolly late for him. And Jay, great podcast. I guess he's mentioning the Coffee Talk podcast over there. And I don't know if you know Thomas Remkus, but he obviously he's not. He doesn't believe it. It's CGI. It's 100% CGI. Honestly, I feel that like 5 years from now, that statement could fully be true. You could have a little app that you download, just okay, Google or whatever it might be.
So Thomas is at Surfball as well. And I think he's actually trying to use my footage and put his head on it, and then
nice.
Why not?
It says here, Michelle, just before we get into the meat and the bones of it, what mug are you sporting today?
So I have my, let's see. It's the Give WP Big Orange Heart mug. So now they actually, today's the last day you can buy this in the Give WP swag store. So if you go to swag.givewp.com, all of the profits from the sale of the Big Orange Heart co-branded swag goes right back to Big Orange Heart. So today's the last day to get it.
Thank you. Michelle, I don't know if this is possible, and it doesn't really matter if it's not, but I think you're considerably quieter than the rest of us, and that may just be a constraint of what you're now having to use. Yeah, that's probably going to work. But we're going to cope with what we've got, so that's fine. One last thing, if you've got any questions, obviously many of you have seen the commenting and how it works. Just drop them in there, and we'll try to answer things as we go along.
I've got one more question.
Busted.
Busted.
I love these live things where people put silly comments. It's absolutely great. Thank you for anybody who bothers to turn up and makes the effort to type things into their keyboard. I know that a few people who just have it on a second screen, but those people that make the effort appreciate it. Right, let's get the screen shared quickly because we're not here to talk
Nathan,
about...
could I just ask Remkus one quick thing about... first of all, I said server bolt earlier, and it's serve bolt. Remkus, I don't know much about ServeBolt. Where do they sit? Are they a WordPress specific host or anything host? And like, where do they sit in between? All the ones that we always hear of, WP Engine, Cloudways, and all these different hosting companies. They're quite premium, it seems, like quite a custom setup, maybe.
We are. We pride ourselves in offering the fastest, most scalable PHP MySQL hosting. We have a very strong focus on WordPress and WooCommerce, but because our focus is on PHP and MySQL, Laravel will do just fine. Drupal will do just fine. Craft CMS will do just fine. Any of the hosting platforms that uses PHP or MySQL will do just fine. How do we compare? I think we have one item on the list for today where actually that question is being answered.
Do you know what? Let's do that now because Paul injected that one, and it seems like this is the perfect place to put it on the screen.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So I'll just preface this. This is a website which I confess I've not come across, but it's called WPHostingBenchmarks.com.
It's a new website.
Oh, okay, right. Okay.
WP Hosting Benchmarks.
Yeah, WPHostingBenchmarks.com. So you can check this one out. I'll maybe drop a link in the show notes after the show. But what's this, Remkus? Why are we looking at this?
So Kevin Ohashi is someone who is independently testing WordPress hosting, and you have to apply for it. And what he does actually test hosting the way you should test them. So it's not your random, these are 10 great hosts type of list, and this one does great support, and that one does great whatever. This is actually looking at the metrics and calculating and stress testing and doing all the things that you you want to know if you're looking for hosting that needs to handle whatever you want to throw at it. And it used to, I think the site is still there. I don't think he has done the full redirect yet. So Review Signal is what it used to be called, and it's rebranded this year to WP Hosting Benchmarks. To answer your question, if you look at the top two things, so the 51 to 100 month and above, you will see that ServBolt is on top of that list.
Ooh.
Congratulations, that's a good achievement.
I'm
So
gonna
I guess
say-
we'll probably hear a lot more about ServBolt in the next 12 to 24 months then in that case.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So we've been growing very hard. I mentioned to Nathan earlier in the pre-meeting room, we've doubled in size in the last 12 months, and it's looking to go even further than that in the next 12 months. So we're doing good.
I'm
Cool.
going to put up the sort of slightly disjointed today. Sorry about this, guys. There's the homepage for the product itself, ServBolt. So it's not Server Bolt, it's just ServBolt. And
No, but
ServBolt,
you can type in serverbolt.com and you'll see what happens.
oh, you got that as well, did you? Okay, yeah. That would make sense because that's such an obvious thing to do. So servbolt.com. I'll be sure to put that in the show notes. Yeah.
I think it's all built in block editor as well, this website. I was checking it.
Mm-hmm.
Super fast website as well. So it's they definitely are eating their own medicine.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a hardcore stance on performance. Like, I know a lot of people say that, and that's fine. But we like to back up everything that we do with advice on how to do things smarter, faster, more scalable, and we proactively help clients in achieving their fastest version of their site. So yeah, that's I guess that sort of sets us apart. To answer your question.
It's curious as well that you were saying before we started recording that that you, maybe this isn't a policy, it's just the way it's worked out. Thus far, you've grown by word of mouth, which is quite an interesting approach. Yeah. So yeah, it's nice. Okay.
So if you want to talk to Thomas directly, you can now.
Oh, okay.
He's in two places at once.
Yeah.
But thanks for mentioning that, Paul. And yeah, so servbolt.com, that's where Remkus is now working. All right, okay, let's get on with the main thing. Just a quick pitch for WP Builds. WPBuilds.com, that's where we put all of our bits and pieces. Remkus was speaking a minute ago about WooCommerce. I spoke to a guy from PeachPay, David. For this week's episode, he's got an interesting one-click solution, which I think WooCommerce have actually injected some money into over the last few weeks. So certainly a curious solution. The idea is that if you do everything on one browser, then you can just have this. You log in over there, and you're always logged in, so you can just do like a one-click Amazon-style checkout. That's what we did this week, but that's not what we're going to talk about. We are, in fact, going to talk about WordPress in general, and this came along this week, 18 years ago. I'm going to concentrate on the 18 years bit, everybody, for a bit first, right? We're going to do that. Then we're going to get onto the politics surrounding the actual story. But 18 years ago, WordPress got started by who? Well, we'll find that out in a minute. But it got started 18 years ago, and we're now at plus 40% of the web. And whichever way you cut that, that is just remarkable. I'm not going to say the wrong horse. I picked a different horse several times during the last 18 years because I've always wanted to build websites with a CMS, and I've went with all sorts. I tried Joomla for a while and it worked out just great, but it didn't keep working out. I did Drupal. It worked out great. I did that for years and years, but it didn't keep working out, and then eventually settled on WordPress, and it just immediately felt like home. You know, the whole community, the whole ease of use, the fact there's a plugin for everything, there's a kind of marketplace so that people can actually make a decent living off the back of it. It's an incredible thing. You know, there's the community that are building it. My entire life is built around WordPress. So without this remarkable piece of software, I would probably have to be building things with Magento, and let's be honest, I don't want to do that. So yeah, Remkus faceplant. No offense if you're building things with Magento. I loved it for a while.
Guilty as well. I played with it as well, but
yeah. And at that point, Michelle literally went away from the screen. It's like, no, we're not talking about Magento. But it is remarkable, and 18 years is one thing, right? I guess many pieces of software have got to this milestone, but to capture 40% of the web is utterly remarkable, and it would appear that that number just seems to keep going up. Why that is, how it's done that, I'm not 100% sure, but we're now approaching 41, 42, and obviously it'll keep going. We'll get onto the politics in a minute, but if any of you three want to just drop in and say what's your, what are your thoughts on getting to 18 years, anything significant? 18 turns you from being an adolescent with like teething problems and being
what did WordPress do now in different countries? WordPress can join the army, drink alcohol in the UK.
Yeah,
that's the kind of
and
things
vote. Yeah. It's a total there's no excuses now. Anything that goes wrong, it's on you.
That's actually an interesting thing to vote. That 40% votes. That 40% votes in a direction of where a lot of things are going. What's happening online. So I started playing with WordPress 17.5 years ago. I was mostly doing Mambo at the time, which then had the fork of Joomla as well. Didn't like it. I hated upgrading. And then I found something. I forgot whose it was, but the very first theme I used, I learned that I can use manipulate the menu, and then I could have some sort of thing that looks like it's done in, I don't know, an hour instead of a day. And I got hooked. Essentially never left.
Yeah, that is
I remember there was a website called opensourcecms.com or .org or something. I used to go to this website all the time at that time when, we were all playing with either Joomla or Mambo or ModX or Drupal or whatever, and I was trying to find, the perfect CMS. I tried Text Pattern. That was pretty good, actually. Text Pattern was, at the time, pretty good. But I just remember there was so many open source projects you could try out.
Yeah.
And then it came to WordPress. And I know Matt Mullenweg talks about, he says, it's just software. It's just software. So, when he's kind of in a corner, he says, it's just software. But actually, WordPress isn't just software. It is, the whole community and all the people. And that's why the four of us are sitting here talking about it today, because not just because we're interested in the code and the software, because of everything else around it. But yeah, I mean, so many happy memories, like you, Nathan. A ton of my life revolves around WordPress now, and the opportunities that it's created, the people I've met and everything. And there's a lot of politics as well that, we'll come to in a minute. But overall, I'm 95% grateful for everything WordPress has done. And after 4 years since the block editor has, Gutenberg project started, I would say I'm starting to feel optimistic about its future again.
We've gone through the teenage years.
Beginning to. It's coming through now. It's coming through.
That's right. We've got full maturity.
15%.
What about you, Michelle? I mean, like the rest of us, I'm sure you've got, great memories, and community is everything to you, right?
Well, it is everything to me. I think I proved that with all the different things that I throw all my time at. But the first thing I ever built on was just straight HTML as a project in my MBA. And I had no clue what I was doing. So we were on a team, and I let other people, I basically threw up a wireframe, not even knowing what a wireframe was, but literally drew it on paper, and they coded it. And then I went from that to Dreamweaver. And from Dreamweaver, when I couldn't afford the subscription for Dreamweaver, I started something which is NView, which was basically Dreamweaver, but free. And from there into WordPress. But it was the weirdest thing. I have an undergrad in religion and philosophy and an MBA in marketing. Never thought I would have a career in technology, and yet here I am. Very grateful.
Yeah.
Michelle, can I just pull you up on something though?
What's that?
Nobody paid for Dreamweaver.
Nobody gave me a free version.
What are you saying?
I mean, that's what I observed. Other people, I was not involved
allegedly,
in this,
Paul. Yeah,
piracy or anything like that.
Allegedly, yeah.
Back in the days before it, I remember the day when Adobe was like, "So you have to sign in now." Oh,
Yeah.
I need to find another piece of software. Then.
you got stuck on CS6 or whatever it was at the time, did you? That was it. There was no upgrade
Until
path
it phoned home. It was free
I
for
remember
most
when
people. Not me.
Actually, you could block your host file and it would still not phone home.
Yeah.
Ah, there you go.
I mean, no, I don't know what.
Allegedly, I've heard.
You heard, yeah, of course. None
Yeah.
of us condone any of that kind of stuff. Yeah.
That was quite a long list of hosts to block as well. He said, allegedly, I heard that there was a big long list there. But this was free. You didn't have to pay for it at that point. It was just absolutely wonderful. Yeah. Anything to add there, Michelle, or shall I move on to the elephant in the room?
Just the funniest thing, when I was working at a college, when the internet first became like a thing, right, where people were accessing the internet at work first before we ever had it at home, and I didn't even know, like, they're like, you have internet now on your computer, and I was like, didn't know what to visit, and I live in Rochester, New York, so I went to Kodak.com because I figured they would have a website, and I kind of played and clicked a link, and then I went back to the link before, and it had changed from yellow to purple, and I was like, oh my God, they know where I've been. I have to be so careful where I visit on the web. Like, my very first lesson in internet was, you are being tracked.
We've got the story about all of that at the end with Google's Flock technology. Michelle, again, I don't know if you have any capability to make it louder, but I reckon you're probably about
close.
I think you're probably about a fifth, maybe even less than the rest of us. So I'm struggling
sorry.
to.
I'm on mobile.
Yeah, that it's okay. It is.
We are on this side of the continent, and you know.
Oh yes, she's got to really shout. It's a long way. Yeah, I remember when I was a kid that. I mean, I mentioned this from time to time. This thing that I'm holding in my hand, this was what I really dreamt of. You know, like a TV that you could hold in your hand and a tricorder, and the idea that you could, phone somebody up and actually see them, and it was just like Star Trek. And now it's totally normal, isn't it? Look at us, the four of us, completely. I mean, we are spread out throughout the world. I mean,
and we all have black boxes.
Yeah, and we've got people commenting from in Australia and from all over the place, and we're just piggybacking off all of the amazing stuff that the internet's brought to us. However, we have to deal with the elephant in the room, and I know that Remkus has a big thing about this. I'm just going to point out the fact that on the screen at the minute, I was scrolling down to all of the milestones that WordPress went through over the previous years, and then you get to this bit here. It says WordPress is born, and currently it says after discussions with Mike Little, Matt Mullenweg created a new branch of B2 on SourceForce. And if you don't know, B2 was the software which WordPress was based upon. It was a fork of that, and then it goes on. But Paul tells me that it didn't say this originally. Is that right, Paul?
That's right. So at the beginning, Mike Little, who is the 50% co-founder as such of WordPress, was left out of the article, which I think is almost certainly administrative error. But he tweeted, and lots of other people noticed it as well. And I think, and then this article was updated, but I think it's still not quite right, because now it's kind of like, after a discussion with Mike Little about what, I don't know, rugby, football, they had a little chat, they had and then Mike Little went home. Then Matt Mullenweg created a new branch of B2 on SourceForge called WordPress. So it's still not quite right, and I know it's really probably just administrative error, but it does matter that Matt Mullenweg and Mike Little co-founded this software when it reaches 18 years old. I mean, imagine two parents on their kid's 18th birthday, and one of them gets completely discredited for anything to do with the child. It's a kind of similar thing. And I know, Remkus, I saw you were involved in the thread as well, and I just wondered what the feel, because people know Mike Little and they like him, and everyone who meets Mike Little likes Mike Little. He's a top guy and stuff. So.
Yeah, he is. I met Mike a couple of times now, and the first time I met him, wonderfully wonderful person. Great conversation we had, and we realized then that at the Wikipedia page, it didn't say that Mike Little was the co-founder. So we actually changed the Wikipedia page at that time on that day to reflect that fact. And this is what WordCamp Edinburgh, I think, 2000. Well, I don't know, long ago.
Yeah.
You know, I felt at that point that was an oversight, and it can happen because maybe the person changing that or making that page didn't know. You know, it's all good, but we're way past that. We've seen in the last years, we've seen like marketing speak type stuff, stating Matt being the founder of WordPress, coming from publishing channels that are either automatic or close to or related to, when I think they should know better. And I can still kind of get how that happens because, you know, marketing, and they don't necessarily are ingrained in the project the way I am, the way you are, whatever. But if we're on the official public page for WordPress and we're saying happy 18th, and then this, what we're seeing now here is already an edit, because Mike was not even in the first paragraph. Mike wasn't even on the entire page. And this is, you know, we can argue that Matt has done more for the growth of WordPress. That's fine. But give credit where credit is fully due, and be extremely explicit on what his impact on the actual founding of WordPress was and has been. Because that's pivotal. That's where the actual fork started. That's a discussion between them on how to do that, why to do that. Started based on a comment on Matt's post, and from there they went into a discussion, and from there they started doing it. And sure, maybe, you know, I suspect Matt was indeed the one that created the branch, and that's all fine. But don't be like, I don't understand the reasoning behind having such vague language. I don't understand. Be 100% clear what it was, how it was, and in the next sentence you want to say, and then Matt Mullenweg took it to the moon. Fine, but that's not what it said, and I got pissed. I saw the tweet with the link. Didn't click on the first time I saw it in the morning. Then I saw Mike's comment, and I said what I said. I said this is a disgrace, and I'm super sad to see this have happened. And I stand by that. I still think that, no matter what.
Michelle?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that come to mind about that too, right? So absolutely, I think, to Paul's comment, I think that marketers don't always know, because, Matt's the face of what we see today. And so without doing any research, I think it's easy to kind of forget that part of it. I don't think that's right, of course. I also think that, Mike is a diversity person, right? So he's a Black man, and we don't have enough people in our society that we look up to as non-white male creators when it comes to technology too. And I think that it's really important to remember that as well.
Yeah.
For sure. And then I do want to say, though, that every time I've had conversations with Matt, he only refers to himself in my podcast and other ways as co-founder, and he credits Mike in our conversations. And you can go back and look at the episode at the BB Coffee Talk if you'd like, but he really does bring that up. So I'm not saying that he doesn't do that all the time. I'm certain when he's talking about WordPress, every single conversation, because it's the founding of WordPress isn't always at the forefront of every conversation. But I did want to say that I do think it's others that are also forgetting and whitewashing what has happened in the past.
On the actual article, I'm just curious, Paul, you mentioned like the language that we've got at the minute, and the language is kind of interesting, and maybe I've passed this wrong, but if you actually read the sentence, it really does sound like Mike didn't do much.
Yeah,
it says
after what it's trying to
discussions
say is that Matt is the person that pressed the button on fork or something. I think that's kind of what they've tried to say, but
okay,
it's true, and it's difficult to know exactly what to say, other than thank you, Mike Little, for co-founding WordPress along with Matt Mullenweg. We're all very grateful for what you guys did, and I think that I know it's been corrected, but maybe hopefully it's been corrected with a memo to anyone who is in the marketing team whatsoever that this never happens again, and that Mike is credited in the same way Matt does credit. You're right, Michelle. I noticed that if someone, Matt Mullenweg is always aware of everybody in the room and people who are being discussed who aren't in the room, and kind of advocates for them in a way. I have seen him do that a number of times.
I would agree.
But I think, when there's so much money involved in WordPress these days and Automatic and all that sort of stuff, and Automatic can buy half of WordPress probably if they wanted to now. They could literally take over by buying out what's left of the companies that haven't been bought out yet. So I think the marketing team should just take note that it did upset people who care about the individuals who are important in the history of WordPress.
There's a great book, actually, which I read a couple of years ago. I mean, great, if you're really into WordPress. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like the story of the founding of WordPress right up to, I don't know, maybe 2013 or something like that.
You mean the one written by Siobhan?
Possible. I don't know. I don't know who wrote it, to be honest, but it's free. It's on make.wordpress.org.
Yeah, that's written by Siobhan McKeon.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, I read that, and that obviously puts Mike in the picture in a much more dramatic way than we get off this piece. I'd just like to reiterate, I've not heard Matt use anything other than co-founder. So let's just put a line under it and say, in the future, let's just make sure that the word co-founder is always used. Okay, from one revelation to another. This is, I think what we're about to announce is possibly the most important thing that has entered in WordPress core since probably like 2 weeks ago. But here it is. It's coming to WordPress core, website near you. Duotone filters. Actually, do you know what? I went in with my super skeptical. This is not for me. I don't think I'll make use of any of this. And then when I looked at it, I thought, oh, I quite like that. So I really didn't about face. It wasn't the cat pictures that sold it to me. It was when I got down to the video, that one. And I looked at the video and I thought, that's actually quite nice. But if you don't know, duotone is the ability to basically take images which have got high contrast. So don't put something, with like millions of colors and different shades. It's something where there's kind of one thing with a contrasting other color, and then it applies filters over the top. So your original image doesn't get in any way altered. It's just applying things over the top of it on the fly. And you can pick a starting color and an ending color. And here we go. There's a cat which is looking really unhealthy. There's a cat which is looking as if it's from the 1930s. There's a cat which looked as, well, I don't know, it's more red. Anyway,
rave.
Yeah, that's right. The rave cat and the slightly dour cat, not very interested
Instagram cat.
The Instagram cat, that's right. But the point is, you can do this in WordPress. It's totally in. As David Wormsley, our good friend, pointed out, I think he said something along the lines of, well, that's just 10K that I don't need. But I quite like it. I'm not entirely sure this is what we needed, but here it is.
I'm Andy Warhol myself with those filters. You're going to look at my website. There's going to be 4 Michelles with different duotones.
So you're a fan, Michelle?
Oh, I will be. I'm going to play with this for sure.
Okay. I don't know if Remkus or Paul have got anything to add here, but
my opinion changed, actually. Remkus, do you want to go first?
Sure. I'll burn it down so you can perhaps build it back up again. I think it's silly. If one of the mantras the WordPress project has is decisions, not options, then what is this? This is a decision that everybody should have the option to fiddle around with images. To me, this is plugin territory to begin with, but I think it's the focus on the wrong type of stuff to enhance the editor. I think the focus in general should be fix what's broken, period. I think the focus should be make it performant, like front end, back end. There is still a large section of people not wanting to switch to Gutenberg from the classic editor because it adds that one line of extra CSS. Now, there's ways around that and optimizing that. We've done that with the site that you saw, servbolt.com, for instance. But the whole focus on performance on the back end, on the front end, just to make the thing that we are constantly using, creating, you know, it's not just this one site. It's how many sites are we having on WordPress? It's millions and millions of sites. Now, the impact of having a slimmed down version of the editor, a more performant version, is huge. If you know, there's calculators that tell you how much energy you've saved if you slim down your page 5 kilobytes, 1 megabyte, or whatever, and multiply that by those tens of millions of sites. Now, then we're talking. That's the sort of direction I want to see, and that's, you know, so performance is, for me, the first thing that needs to be fixed. It's not that it's not performant; it's just not as performant as it should be. Secondly, fix broken stuff, which is everything from accessibility to whatever you can find in the pull requests in the repo. And there are quite a few pull requests. Like, it's in the thousands. I don't get that direction. I genuinely don't get that direction, other than this is some marketing gimmick.
Of course it's marketing. This is to compete with things like Wix and Squarespace and other things, so that you can, you know, in WordPress.com especially, right, that people want to see things that they can get other places. And in WordPress.org, and, you know, in self-hosted, you know, people who are playing with that but really don't know what they're doing. They're not developers. They want tools too. And so I think this is definitely in response to those kinds of things.
Yeah. And I know it is, but it's just wrong from my perspective.
So, Paul, your turn to build it up again.
Yeah, there's, well, I'm glad you went first there, Remkus, because there was some really good stuff that came out of that I'd want to build on. And first of all, Michelle, you mentioned WordPress.com, and yeah, to be honest, it's only just hit me why some of these features would be there, and it's because WordPress.com can't install Beaver Builder, it can't install Bricks, it can't install Elementor. So that product owned by Automatic will look completely dated if it doesn't have some kind of page buildery type thing where you can have some kind of design control. And yeah, that isn't the right thing for the .org project, though. That's a different. And I think that's why this whole Gutenberg project gets so much criticism, because it's so open to seeing a very obvious potential agenda that nobody can really prove, but it's kind of there to have theories, to conspiracy theory about all day if you wanted to. You could just you know, find conspiracy theories in everything. In terms of like the feature itself, I'll come back to that because I actually quite like one aspect of it. But in terms of, you know, fix the things that are broken, so I know there's like thousands of pull requests, and for me the thing that's broken is the interface as such. But I'm hoping that does get some more focus on, and I think it will, because people are doing the work for the core team sometimes in solving things. Like there's a plugin called, I think it's called Block Editor Outline or something, and it makes it very much easier to see what's going on in the block editor, and you'd hope that would come back. I know they have challenges because they've got to kind of create an editor that is as accessible as possible, but they started off, they created, you know, I don't want to criticize, but it is a critical kind of observation that they started with something difficult to put accessibility into, and then they've now got to constantly move forward and move backwards at the same time on that front. So I would love to see, in terms of the performance aspect of the block editor, like what David Wormsley said, you know, that's another 10K that we don't want. And yeah, I would like to see anything that is put into the block editor project or the Gutenberg project be categorized. So this would be a fun add-on or something like that, or something just gimmicky, designy things, and you could turn that off. you could turn off all the gimmicky design things, and you could say, do you know what I want? I just want a grid builder. That's what I want block editor to be. I want to add my own CSS. I don't want color selection for fonts. That's too much. I don't want this or that, whatever it is. I don't want any of those things. I just want the block, the block grid builder, and I know what I'm working with. But some people who are, maybe moving over from Wix or moving over from WordPress.com, they want the color changes and that sort of stuff, because what they want to do is see the thing and change it. There's the thing and change it, and they press different buttons and it changes, and that's fine, and it's a different audience. But there is anyway, that little rant over, moving over to the feature itself. At first I was 100% like, oh, this is pointless, and I think the article doesn't do it any favors in a way, and it's not a criticism of the article, it's just that the article kind of presents it in terms of, here's a picture and you can add some kind of weird filter to it, which is basically useless in most cases. It's not like it's an Instagram-y style filter that makes you look kind of, your skin look nice, well, whatever it might be that people use Instagram filters for, to look cool. But what I did see further down the page, and it's what you noticed as well, Nathan, is that it does say that this effect is applicable to the cover block, which is usually a background image with some text over the top or something over the top. And in 90% of cases, people create those banners, whether they're using a page builder or not, and they will apply an overlay of a color which might have a gradient on or something like that, and it looks kind of washed out, and then they put their text over the top. Now, sometimes when I've got the energy, I'll design a website and I'll take this background image that I was going to do that too, and I'll add an actual Photoshop type overlay over the top, so that there's no fading out of the background image. I've got the effect, but I've still got some contrast on there. So in a way, there is a nice use of this, that people will be able to have cover blocks, which is a background row, with some editorial text over the top, with the image still looking good, the contrast still coming through, but the text super readable over the top of it as well. So there is a kind of use there, and so I've got some kind of positive thing to say about it, but that was it. And mostly I felt like, Remkus, you said that this doesn't belong in the core, and why are they focusing on it? And lastly, just to say, if that gets into core, it makes me think that the people who make the decisions on core are in a quite a small room or a small box, because if you put that out to the whole community, that would get voted out of WordPress core. And I know that people will say, Birgit, who comes on the show sometimes, will say, well, come and join the conversation in Slack. But it's not, the conversation's happening here today. This is where a bunch of people are talking about it on a live stream, and some people are commenting and stuff like that. And 4 of us unanimously, more or less, think it's a bad idea. But in a different room, everyone unanimously seems to think it was a good idea. So there's total disconnect in different types of users.
There's definitely a disconnect, and I'd like to say that I see the use case for the cover block. I see it as well. I like the cover block. It solves a lot of, how do I want to fancy up my heroes? I totally get that. I just don't get the deviation from what the core idea was of what core should be. Lean and mean. And we sort of lost that somewhere.
I kind of wondered if it was almost like a proof of concept. Like, look, we can do this kind of thing for people who don't know that this kind of thing might be available. What I'm saying by that is I've seen a few little things come along, most of them proprietary, third party, not from core, where it's like, ooh, that's an unexpected use of a block. And this is obviously, you can apply this to blocks. I just wonder if they're throwing a few things out there like, look, these are the kind of things you'll be able to do in the block editor with a point, click, drag, select option. But I just can't see that this is in anything other than the territory of an additional plugin. You want to go out and find this because you want it. I got a feeling Michelle might disagree. She's loving it.
No, I'm just wondering why they don't put it in Jetpack like they do with everything else.
It's what Remkus was saying. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, we could go on about this for a long time.
Nathan, could you pull a web link up for me if I just send it to you now?
Yeah.
I can't really complain too much, to be honest, but if I just send you that, yeah, that's correct. Pull up that link there.
Oh, this is self-promotional, is it? Yeah,
It is.
yeah,
It is. Although
okay.
I'm not selling anything, so
No, it's fine. I'm only joking.
Yeah.
So this is paullacey.digital. Ooh,
So I
look, he's
can't
got
see what
duotone.
use I would have on this website for such a filter.
You have. I saw your website. Did you launch it last week?
No, I launched it a while ago, but a few people noticed it last week. So,
I saw it. Yeah, pretty nifty.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, thanks. As you can see, I've got the filter going. It's not the filter. I did that myself in, some software.
We would never know.
But maybe they looked at my website and decided. So I just want to apologize if this is my fault.
You're a
So, like, listen.
trendsetter, Paul.
Paul Lacey keeps
Wow,
moaning that no one's
that's
listening to
totally
what
awesome.
he wants.
I'm
New
just
WordPress
setting
on his
you.
podcast. Let's go to his website and see what he does on his website. Look, he's got a photo with a pointless gradient on it. Let's give him that, and surely he'll give us some really good brownie points on the podcast.
Nice PR.
I can't decide if you're flexing or humble bragging or.
I don't know. I
All of
don't
the
know what I'm
above.
doing. Most of the time, I don't know.
Jamin likes it though. He's putting ha ha to the comments. Jetpack should be banned according to Thomas. Sorry, Michelle. Let me just make that view so that it doesn't cover up your face. So put it in Jetpack. Awesome idea. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's move it on. I'm really curious about this one, and I'm not trying to put Remkus on the spot here because I kind of get the impression that he's maybe got a different opinion about what WordCamps are at the moment. But I do want to just sort of move it on to the fact that where are we? I've lost it. There we go. I'll put this one up for goodness sake. There we go. This is I'm going to keep prodding over the next few days in our Facebook group and things like that. Where's the screen? There's the screen. That WordCamp EU. Obviously, we're into the second round of it being online. It's starting very soon. I think we're about 7 days away. I think it's starting this time next week. And they are at the point where, more or less everything is locked down now. You can go and get your tickets. You can go and see who's going to be speaking and all of that kind of stuff. And this is not even a humble brag. This is just a flat out brag. 2
humble brags in a row.
I'm so pleased. I got picked to be one of the media partners, and I just can't believe. Oh, for goodness sake! Oh, there it is. Look! After 6 years of doing online stuff, finally I've got to be on somebody else's webpage. So I'm absolutely delighted. So yeah, there we are with Talk Magazine and WP Mayor and the Gutenberg Times and Devote Press and IUDA WP. I'm so chuffed. That,
well done, Nathan.
Honestly.
They're just copying WordFest because we had you first.
Well, exactly, yeah. But I'm just really pleased. So I am going to be mentioning the fact that WordCamp Europe is coming around soon. Now, by pure coincidence, because we do book this thing many, many weeks in advance, we have Remkus, and Remkus is. I was gonna say founder.
You better mention who the other person was.
Co-founder.
Exactly. Imagine the death trap that would be. He is one of the founders of WordCamp Europe. Going back to, can I just pluck a date out of my head, which is probably wrong? Can I say 2012?
So we started the idea in 2010, and we played around with the idea for 2 years, I would say. And when I say us, it's a group of friends meeting each other at WordCamps throughout Europe. And some of us got invited to the inaugural WordPress Community Summit. So in Tybee Island, Georgia, United States. And that's the first time I met Matt and many other people very active at that time. So this is 2012, October, in the WordPress project. And we had the idea to pitch it to Matt and see what he thought. And at the time, WordCamps were going from being country-based to city-based. So we wanted to go the other direction. We wanted to go region-based. In fact, quite a large region. And so over the course of a couple of days, we got the, okay, let's see what this does. Let's see what happens. And we kind of went from there. And the very first one was in September 2013 in Leiden, the Netherlands. So yeah, that's how that came to be.
It honestly, the only WordCamp Europe I've been to was the one in Berlin in 2019, just before.
You missed out on a lot of fun.
I know, but all I can say is, having stepped into it at that point, there was I didn't see the growth. I just saw what it had become. And that, in a way, gives you a really interesting moment, because when I walked in, I was like, whoa, this is much, much bigger, much more professional, much more attended, and the amount of cogs and wheels and things that were going on. We were in the day before it all started, and we saw you with your pink t-shirt on, guiding all of the volunteers around and showing them what was needed. So there was all this stuff, all of these cogs going on in the background for months and months and months. And just a remarkable event. I think WordCamp Europe still to this day has the biggest attendee numbers of any. So, well, obviously, thank you for setting this kind of stuff up. But I am curious, if I may ask, how do you feel about the kind of like the online version that we've been forced into? Do you kind of get something out of that, or are you kind of, no, I'll leave that? And what do you make of it?
So the thing that prompted us to start WordCamp Europe was that we saw a need for a better cohesion of what started to become, very slowly at the time, a larger community in Europe. And certain countries were heavily underrepresented. Certain countries were quite active already at the time. And one of the goals was to get those people together in the same room, get to know each other better. And as you get to know each other better, you start to build that community sense in a larger sense, in the physical form, as well as friendship starts to really kick off and or even start at all. So the whole idea behind it was the unifying part.
Mm.
There were more ideas, but that's one of them. The first one in Leiden, we had 832, and in Berlin, we had close to 3,000. So that's quite a big leap. We can argue that certain things, as how they were in the beginning, were not there in the last three, I would say. But that's inherent of growth of a community, of a project, of impact, and all of that. And if you now look at the online thing, for me, that's only a portion of what WordCamp Europe is. And for me, it's the wrong portion, for me personally. That's not to say that what's happening isn't good. That's not to say it's not valuable. It's just, for me personally, I don't thrive sitting at a computer watching a presentation. That's not my thing. I don't do the same thing for YouTube. If I want to learn something, I don't go watch a YouTube. I may watch one, but I'm done then. I get exhausted in that way. So for me personally, it's not the greatest way of having a online event. So, and I can't stress this enough. This has nothing to do with the quality of what's being produced last year and this year. It's tremendous. I'm still helping out. Less active this year than previous years. It's just not for me personally. But what they're doing is tremendous. There's a huge learning opportunity. But I miss the one-on-one. I miss talking. So for the last years, I would say I would mostly focus on the few talks that I really wanted to see, and the rest would be hallway track for me. Because I think that's where it's at.
Yeah, yeah. I think
that's my learning. That's where I learn more from people in one-on-ones than I do watching a big screen. That's me personally. That's, again, I can't stress this enough. This has nothing to do with how the project's being run now. It's just that for me, it's a different thing.
Yeah. we don't need to dwell on this too much, but Paul, if you've got anything you want to add, or Michelle, maybe Michelle, go first if you've got something.
Yeah, I mean, I miss having a meal with people, sharing a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, and seeing people and making the circle in the swag, not just picking up swag, but talking to the people, who have the swag, and seeing people in person. I think it's unfortunate that everything is online right now, but it's the next best thing until we can all meet again in person, I guess.
Thank you. Paul?
One of the most serious issues for me about the lack of real physical WordCamps is the amount of laptops out there, new laptops, with no stickers on them. Can you imagine?
Great. It's not right.
You're touching a very important point.
That's one of the things that WordPress is, WordCamps is all about, getting stickers, putting them on your laptop. But
I have stickers. Send me your address. I'll send you stickers, Paul.
Yeah, but I need
it's not
30 stickers.
He needs
to send you 30 stickers.
Take him off the table himself. That's
yeah.
It
I
doesn't happen that way.
Stickers. And if there's like a limit on the stickers it feels that I'm supposed to get, come back later and get a few more kind of thing.
Yeah. You have like your whole scheme. Like I can get like 2, 3 now, but if I go around the corner, wait 5
then there's a different person on the stand.
Yeah. I
can get some more.
I have a new laptop in the last year, and I had stickers that I have saved from over the years, so I was able to sticker my new laptop, but nothing new.
You hoarded stickers
that I collected
I technically could do that as well for many laptops.
Yes.
It's not the same thing.
It's not the same.
I think we've stumbled across. Sorry, Michelle. I think we've stumbled across the name of this episode. It's going to be called "You Hoarded Stickers." That's I'm going to write that down in a moment.
I'm with everybody here, though, that it is, for me, the hallway track is the most important part of a WordCamp, and it's the hallway track is where I've met some of my best friends in life, and also, Michelle, I heard some people go to WordCamps and they enjoy the whole hallway track so much that they all get tattoos together. There it is. And I can't imagine, just to sort of, to say the difference between the online versus the real one. And again, I'm with Remkus saying this isn't like a criticism of the online events, because they're doing what they can with what they can work with. But I can't see that anyone's going to be going and getting tattoos with their buddy that they met online WordCamp. It's just not the same human connection. No. I've seen people go to WordCamp London, and it was one of the first public events that they ever went to, agoraphobic type guy. And after that event, he was a different person. So and that's the kind of thing. A lot of people go to these events and they're introverts, and they go and they gain a lot out of it on a human level, as even if they don't attend any of the talks.
My job at Give WP is a direct result of the hallway track.
Nice.
And that is the story for so many people.
Yeah.
The reason me and Nathan are, on the same podcast is because we met at WordCamp.
And you'll never know the amount of times I wish I'd gone left instead of right. It was just...
There's a blog post there.
Yeah. We could call it that. Should I have gone left or right?
Too many titles.
You're right, Paul. I remember seeing you for the first time. That was a nice moment, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'll forever cherish that. Yeah. It'll come back. Let's focus on it. It'll come back. I was at the beach today.
Time will solve all problems, this included.
Yeah.
But it also hurts me personally. And I know there's circumstances why we have what we have, but it's a lot of people think I'm an extrovert. I'm not. I'm also not fully an introvert. So being at these things for me is a charge and a drain at the same time.
Yeah.
But the charge lasts so much longer than the event.
Mm-hmm.
It literally charges me. I get a lot. I'm like anybody going to an event like that. You recuperate the next week.
Yes.
That's just what it is. But the stuff that is rewarding after that, essentially the day after already, just continues to grow. I have friendships. I've got everything from friends to work to new jobs, new opportunities. Everything is connected to that whole in real life thing.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point you made there about the sort of two sides of it, the recharge and the discharge.
Yeah.
That's a really poor use of a word there. But anyway, the fact that you get buoyed by it and then equally at the same time you sort of get drained by it. Yeah, that hadn't really occurred to me, that. But you're right. The week after I did WordCamp Europe, I was on like 50% of what I needed to be because I'd really gone at it, and had a really amazing time. And I just needed to recharge in the following week.
So the after parties, sorry, Michelle.
It drains your energy, but it charges your inspiration. So it's not draining and charging the same things.
Right.
So I got a lot of enjoyment from the after parties because it's the culmination of organizing the event, having the event, and then have fun.
Yeah.
And it's from those after parties that I have the fondest memories. It's just. And not just because of the drinking or whatever. It's just although the very first one has an interesting story I could share at some point, I guess. But for those listening, yes, I'm referring to the WooCommerce shots.
Okay.
But yeah, the whole atmosphere of being in the same room with like-minded people. And it's weird. I always found that an interesting thing to be very specific about the WordPress community, because I've been in other open source communities before, Joomla being one. The WordPress community, for some odd reason, the vast majority of people enjoying to work with WordPress turn out to be people I enjoy to be with. Which is a weird thing to say. Like, how does the prevalence for a piece of software end up with a similar type group of people to interact with? That's an odd thing in my head. Like,
I think it's that you want to interact with the other people in the community, and that's the thing that is the joining factor.
I can answer parts of that question. But the coincidence of the whole is so large that it's just beyond the rationale of the separate things I can answer. I've always found that incredibly interesting, and that's especially occurred to me because the first WordCamp I went to was the one I organized or co-organized in the Netherlands, WordCamp Netherlands 2009, and from there I went pretty much anywhere where they wanted me, they would have me. So from Spain to Norway to Scotland, all of those different locations. And the funny thing is, I kept seeing the same pattern happen again. Wherever I went, same type of crew, same type of people, same enjoyable type of people. I'm like, how does this happen? This is interesting.
It's because the people who attend WordCamps and are part of contributing to the community are just a subset of all the people using WordPress.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But it's still this, because I've been to Magento meetings, I've been to Joomla meetings, and it's not that they were bad. It's just there's no vibe like that.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting phenomenon for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, one day let's all just cross every finger, every toe that we've got, and hope that the situation which is preventing us from doing this is going to go away. And we'll be.
But it's not all bad though. That's why we have. If I can transition into WordFest for a second,
please, because I was going to try and do that, I failed. So let me put it on the screen quickly.
Here we go. So WordFest is, it's part of Big Orange Heart. And Big Orange Heart is about reducing the isolation that happens because we're remote workers. And this last year, we're all remote workers for the most part, right? And so having online events like this actually have made our community even more tight-knit. We miss being in person, but we have opportunities to learn and to meet other people. This past year and a half, I've suffered the same as we all have. I want to have coffee with you. I want to shake your hand. I want to give hugs to huggers. I want to do all those things. But I've also grown my network exponentially because I'm meeting people online that I might not have otherwise by doing things like being able to speak at WordCamp India. I never would be able to travel to India otherwise. It's financially a burden. I don't move well, so being able to walk through a country where that's important, those things would have been cut off to me. But I've been able to really grow my network because I'm constantly meeting with people online that I might not have otherwise. And so, although I think we need to have both, right? So WordFest, I think, is something that does that really nicely for us. It's a 24-hour celebration. It isn't like, a WordCamp Rochester where we have it, for 7 hours in the Rochester time zone. It's a 24-hour event that literally spans the globe time-wise, where we try to get speakers within those different continents to be able to present in their own time zone, in their own time frame. And so it's an interesting take on what is kind of like a WordCamp, but not an official WordCamp, of course. It is a fundraiser for Big Orange Heart because absolutely we need to continue to grow our funds to be able to provide the services and the areas that we do for remote workers. But it's also just a heck of a lot of fun. And this iteration of it, we've built in even more things that we didn't have the first time because of time constraints. So I'll stop talking. Y'all can give me your
No, that was a really nice description of it. It's happening 23rd of July, so
Yes.
WordCamp Europe happening first and then WordFest. And the page that I've got on at the moment is all about the fact that as with all these events, if it's going to run smoothly, then they require some additional help. In this case, they're looking for volunteers. So if you're curious about this one day in time, this 24-hour period running around the globe, and if you feel that you've got something to offer, that's what this page is about. There's actually it's quite refreshing. I don't see it on this page, but I do remember seeing it when I clicked through. They're looking for a whole phalanx of different skill sets. So they're not just after, they would like people who are good with AV, and they'd like people who are good at, anyway, go and click on the link and you can see there's 5 or 6 different categories where
it's
you
in the
might
form itself. It's in the form itself where we asked.
Was it that button there, the register now? Does it
believe.
Explain it there? Okay, let me just go to that.
I'm looking on.
Oh, there we go. So they're looking for MCs, so people to speak in the same way that I'm doing right now on the screen. Green room monitors, people who are willing to do the tech of the video but don't want to be on the screen themselves. They can get people in and make sure that the video is played at the right time. Chat moderators, graphic designers, community moderators, comms, operations, AV producers. Oh, wow, so well organized. The URL for that is wordfest.live/call-for-volunteers. Call for volunteers. And you can go and get yourself signed up. We're running out of time quickly, and I know we've got a couple of things. One of them, actually, again, totally, well, it wasn't organized this way. We've talked last week, Michelle, about the GiveWP acquisition. I don't know if you wanted to spend 5 minutes telling us about that, because we didn't actually have you on last week when the news broke.
So I put it on the list because I get a lot of personal questions. People have been DMing me saying, "Are you okay? Is this a good thing?" And it is. It's a very good thing. GiveWP continues to operate the way we always have. We have the same team that we've always had. We have the same developers. We have the same customer success, the same support tech, and we continue to do everything the way that we have before. So I have a different boss now. I report directly to Matt Cromwell now. Still somebody I've been working with for the last 3.5 years in GiveWP. The only difference is we have an umbrella company now that we have a bigger network to work from. I no longer would have to pay Chris Lemma for his advice, for example, because he's in our company, and I have just a bigger network in Slack. I have a bigger network that I can talk to people in customer success in the other plugins. So I've been able to talk to people with the events calendar, for example. In our Liquid Web and in Cadence Blocks and all those kinds of different things that are now part of the company I belong to. So, and we have standardized healthcare, that I've had to pay for, I had a stipend before to find and pay for my own healthcare, which was a blessing. But having standardized healthcare now with eye and dental and everything else is also even better than I have had for a while. So So for anybody that really is wondering, they're not paying me to say this, but I really do. I'm really excited about where we're going and how things are working, how we still have autonomy as a company within the company, but how we have even greater access to resources.
I was one of the people that pestered you, and I can absolutely say that you were over the moon. We won't dwell on what was in that conversation, but it was all one way, wasn't it? You were really, 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 really pleased about the way it gone.
And to you and everybody else who reached out, I really do appreciate that everybody was concerned about me in particular. I appreciate that so much, and just want to, affirm to everybody that I'm really happy and things are going very well.
Yeah. So congratulations.
Thank you, David.
I'm so pleased for you. Genuinely, that's really, really nice.
Thanks.
We've only got 10 minutes left. So do you mind, Paul, if we cut to this flock story, or do you want to do something different?
Yeah.
Should we go straight to the flock one?
Yeah.
I will just say that over the last week, I'll just say it, that's just to say it. The post status, that was one of the ones that we're just quickly going to drop. Post status has been acquired. Brian Crosgard has moved away. He's dropped his 50% share and he's given it all to Corey Miller. And we were going to talk about that, but I feel that time's got the better of us. So we'll go to this one. This is a plugin from Jeff Starr. I really like Jeff Starr. It's Perishable Press, and Google, come on. The Google have got this new flock technology, the federated something of cohorts. I can't remember what L stands for, but it's something beginning with L. Yeah, the federated learning of cohorts. And we've talked about this in the past. We talked about it when Tim Nash was on a few weeks ago. And a lot of people are slightly concerned about it. The idea is that you will be put into a cohort for a period of time, something around 2 weeks, and you will be lumped. The idea is it's a pushback against targeted advertising. The idea that nobody really likes that. Literally everybody thinks that's creepy. So Google's solution for this is to invent cohorts, and they put you into this silo. And for this 2 week period, you are cohort 137294, whatever that, whatever your number is. And it means that you have this attribute, this attribute, this attribute. If over another 2 week period, you start to look for a different product range, or you're suddenly looking to go on holiday, you go into another cohort and they push adverts at you. What could possibly go wrong? And so, people in the open source community are, I think, rightly aghast that the sole arbiter of this technology, by the looks of it, will be Google. So people like Jeff Starr have built a single line of code, basically, just to disable this on websites, to disallow this from being possible. If you don't want to be part of this stuff, stop using Chrome. Was one of his pieces of advice. Stop using Chrome. What was it? What was the other one? Or use a Chrome extension that disables Flock. Anyway, it would seem that people this week are getting more and more cross with Google. And I saw a piece, and I can't even remember. I meant to put it in the show notes, but I saw this piece this week. Who was it? It was somebody on Twitter with about 15 different, those things, those stories in Twitter, saying that even Google say it's basically impossible for them not to track you. You have to track. Was it you?
I shared that one, yeah.
Was it you? Oh, whoa, that's great. You've got to try really, 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 really hard, and even then they'll still be able to track you.
So that was particularly on the Google Maps thing.
Yeah, the map side, right? Location data. Yeah,
being built in, and then very privacy-minded people at Google, didn't know they were still being tracked. B, didn't even know how to have them not be tracked from their own company.
I'm so glad it was you, though. That's such a great coincidence. But just the idea that Google employees, people really steeped in this, can't figure out how to switch off location-based tracking. It's just slightly concerning. So I think initiatives like Jeff Starr's Perishable Press plugin to just switch that off. I don't wish to be a part of it. I mean, I don't, whatever. I don't mind being put in a cohort, but I don't want Google to have all of that data.
Well, the plugin will help you advocate for your website visitors. That's right. As opposed to you personally.
Yeah.
Which is going to be a tricky one for anyone who has an e-commerce store and wants to do retargeted marketing with Google, they'll be kind of, oh, what do we do here? I mean, I think back to Jeff Starr. Thank you, Jeff Starr, for another awesome plugin. He seems to be an expert in creating plugins that stop things.
Yeah.
He's got an interesting niche. I remember him from way back when. He would do anything WordPress, but for the last 10 years, I would say he's really good at turning stuff off or tweeting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. He's got a
plugin that completely turns off Gutenberg.
Yep.
And it's got a quite funny byline on the plugin. It's like, and it won't be stopped when Classic Press or whatever it's called, Classic Editor turns off. This plugin will last forever. You can turn off Gutenberg forever with this plugin. But some of us are using that plugin. If we're not using Gutenberg on a site and we're interested in performance and we want to, get rid of any of the bloat that the block editor is going to force upon the front end of our site that we're not using, then that's a fantastic plugin to use. And then elsewhere, he's created all sorts of plugins to stop bots or malware or these kind of things. So it seems that he's really on the ball when it comes to knowing what WordPress users don't want.
He's like the Cory Doctorow of WordPress, isn't he? He's the sort of guy.
But has the decision to include that yes no into core, has that been decided? Because there was somebody opened a ticket about that, didn't they, about a week ago, and I don't know where that went. I haven't followed that up, but I'd be curious to know, because it feels like the direction of travel would be off, but I could be completely wrong about that. Because like WooCommerce sites, like Paul said, it's such a difficult one. What do you do? So WooCommerce can do whatever WooCommerce wants. WordPress, I think, and this is what I when I in the introduction said, with 40+% market share on the CMS, with 18+ years of experience, this is where voting starts to come in, and then there's people arguing, no, it should be political or whatever. Privacy is not political. Period. Privacy is privacy. So I think we should include it. This is one of those things where we need to take a positive stance in just not having that tracking sort of stuff go on. Because if we look at the state of the web, and if we were to conclude like a top 5 things that are inherently wrong with it, I'd say tracking is very, very high on that list.
Tracking's 1 to 5. In fact, I'd say
probably.
It's all.
I wasn't going to go that far, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what's interesting though is that if we're at 41% of the web, if that was the default, would you? I mean, if you're Google and you figure out that 40% of the web is not all right, 40%. Who knows how much traffic those 40% of the websites drive? But you've got to think that's a pretty big vote.
Yeah, it's 40% of the top. What is it? 10,000 sites?
Yeah, I thought it was a bit more than that. But anyway,
whatever
the point is, it's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got to feel that Google, you couldn't ignore that message, right?
No.
And it puts WordPress in an interesting position of leveraging. It can speak to power.
So I think
with decisions like that.
Yeah, I think the politics is here. Is Google is also one of the larger sponsors for WordCamp US and WordCamp Europe.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that as well. Yeah, there's conspiracy theories to be had there, aren't there? That if you
can
take money from
what is he saying? Follow the money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not implying anything, but it's an interesting construct to keep in mind, as these things from the outside looking in don't relate to each other, but they do. There is a connection.
Yeah, you would say it's obvious that it should be something like a piece of open source software should have that blocked by default, and having the website owner having to make a moral decision for their users via a plugin probably to turn Flock on. And if there's like a feeling of guilt associated with that, let's say you make 40 websites a year, and then it's easier to sort of say I didn't turn it off than it is to say I turned it on and I wanted people to be tracked. So I think it should be blocked, and I think WordPress should make a stance on that. I think some other CMSs have made a stance on that. But yeah, Google does give a lot of money to WordPress via different sources. And I remember it was maybe 2 years ago, even on this show, that we were talking about how Google was very involved in one of the big events. And it'd be easy to say, oh, it's just a coincidence that just kind of, but it's right. You follow the money, and where there is huge amounts of money and world influence happening, people will do anything to get what they need to make the billions or trillions of dollars that are needed. So I think that if WordPress is true to what it's supposed to be about democratizing publishing and all this kind of thing, then it should be off. We shouldn't have something that allows people to be put in cohorts without knowing when we knew we could stop it.
Can I encourage anybody who's got anything to say on this topic, please log into Facebook and make a comment over on Facebook, or log into Google and make a comment over on the YouTube channel.
And briefly visit wpbuilds.com. Click around a couple of the pages.
Oh, the supreme irony. Yeah. Here we are taking comments about all this stuff, and we're tracking, so much tracking. Yeah, I think you're right. I don't know if you saw that comment. I don't know who made that particular comment though, Remkus, but somebody did in the Facebook group. Well, privacy is not political. Period. Privacy is privacy. Well put. Obviously, like your sentiment there, and I agree. Michelle, we are so close to being over time. Would you like to add anything to that before we round up?
I think that we have become an opt-out society, and we need to become an opt-in society.
Ooh,
hear, hear. Wow,
Michelle just nails it with one sentence. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, my feeling on all of that, just to one more minute, is that we didn't know this was going to happen. We just didn't see this stuff coming. The technology just
I think we did.
Oh, okay, right. Well, I'm not going to argue with you because you lift weights, and it's just.
But I am a people man. I do not hurt other people. Unless they,
unless they disagree with me on a live web.
No, I was going to say unless they really need it, but
I thought Nathan was going to say you lift weights and this is a heavy subject.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that. What did Michelle say?
Wow, that was brilliant. She said, I thought you were going to say I lift weights and this is a heavy subject.
Oh.
Michelle,
nice.
One-liner, Frechette.
Yeah, that's right. I have to change the name. The name of the episode is going to be different now. I'm sticking with you hoarded stickers. We have, as always, I've enjoyed this very, very much. Thank you to Paul, obviously, who's the co-host. Obviously, we'll be back next week doing it again. But first time, Remkus, I hope that you enjoyed it, and love to have you back.
Thanks for having me, and I'd love to be back.
Yeah, I'll send you a link when the show's over. And Michelle, as always, I realised it's a public holiday, just like it is in the UK. So extraordinary thanks for making the effort to come in early morning on your public holiday. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. I'm just looking to see if there's any final comments. There isn't. So we have this awkward moment where we have to wave. Everybody's got to wave while I click and say bye-bye. See you next week. Bye.